What's up guys, Nolan here, and today we're talking about something that I honestly never thought that I would talk about, which is armored vehicles in Escape from Tarkov, along with what we can do to stop them. In case you missed it a while back with the most recent Streets tease, BSG showed the first of several vehicles that will be coming to Escape from Tarkov with the BRDM. Now to be clear, we don't directly control the vehicle itself, but there are some aspects of it that we can control, and in some later Q&As, Nikita gave us more details about the vehicle as well as some others that will be coming along with it, all of which I'm going to break down today. But please remember, all of this is subject to change and we are here to test this game for the final product. So please try to leave any significant feedback for the actual implementation of this feature before you go reaming about it on Reddit or whatever. First up, for confirmed vehicles, we have the BRDM armored personnel carrier, aka the tank that everyone is referring to. This is going to have light armor and a 30mm autocannon, likely shooting some type of high explosive or dual purpose round. There will be a type of a BTR that will have no cannon, but it will have a machine gun, likely a large caliber like the NSV, aka the Cord, that we see all over Tarkov, and you will be able to tell the difference between the two based off of the top of the vehicle. There will be a large superstructure with a very obvious cannon for the autocannon, while the Cord version of it will have a small dome. None of our small arms, other than maybe the Lapua, will have any effect whatsoever on the vehicle. The Lapua might damage the gun, but there's no confirmation on that. The dual purpose 40mm grenades may also disable the gun after some direct hits, but that's also not confirmed. Anyone talking about the wheels being able to be shot out are wrong. These wheels are meant to be shot up and will still work with significant damage. You will need proper explosives to be able to actually do anything significant to this vehicle. Next up, we have the BMP-2. Hitting this with anything but proper anti-armor explosives is useless. It's going to have the same 30mm autocannon as the BTR, but just better protected. It could also be equipped with an AGS grenade launcher and even ATGMs. Now, this is lightly confirmed, and it is possible that Nikita meant a BMP-1 when he spoke about it, as he did just say BMP, but from what I can tell, there are no BMP-1s in Tarkov, while you can find BMP-2s everywhere, including some concept art being driven around on Streets of Tarkov. Given this, I would say it's extremely likely that he means BMP-2s, but we'll have to wait and see. Next up, we have the BRDM-2. There is no mention from Nikita, so this might not be coming as any type of usable vehicle in Escape from Tarkov, but we have seen one shot of it as a Nikki leak, and it has an anti-RPG/heat fencing around it, pointing towards it being deployed in an urban environment. It also has a ZU-23-2 cannon on it, which is made to shoot down aircraft. It is absolutely devastating when used as a direct fire weapon, so these days it actually regularly is. Given the anti-shaped charge package on the vehicle, if this does end up coming to Escape from Tarkov, you likely won't be able to disable the vehicle with a hit to the side or front. I would assume you would need to either hit the gun directly with a dual purpose round or get behind it somehow. Now, those were the three vehicles that we know about so far, but I wouldn't leave it out of the realm of possibility to see any vehicles that we currently see in game as static vehicles to possibly get some life later down the line. Since this is planned to be an open world game, vehicles would clearly be very useful, especially anything like small cars or even trucks, but I wouldn't bet on it. The way Nikita talks about these, it sounds like these will be very special sort of events when these vehicles come around, but we'll see what happens. Now that we know what we are looking at for armored targets, let's discuss what we will be able to do about it by way of anti-armor rocket launchers and high explosives. So far confirmed, we have the RPG-7 coming to the game, where one of these rounds are a heat round. This is the PG-7VL, which can penetrate giggity more than 500mm of rolled homogeneous armor. What that is specifically is basically if you see a vehicle that has significant metal as an armored vehicle, it is probably not just metal, it is probably this rolled homogeneous armor, and that is what most of these armor vehicles that we are going to be seeing are going to be made of. This will easily destroy the BTR and the BMP, but might get stopped by that cage on the BRDM if it hits just the cage. There's going to be a frag round, which is anti-personnel. This is the OG-7V, and will have a kill radius of 23 feet even versus body armor. This might disable the BTR or the BRDM, but likely will not do anything to the BMP. Otherwise, this obviously will be good for clearing a room or three in a building. A possible warhead that might be coming with the RPG is the TBG-7V, which is a thermobaric round. Thermobaric rounds are basically just explosives on steroids. They can level buildings, and the concussive blast can even kill through walls. This is basically an anti-T-Rex round, and it will have a kill radius, body armor or not, of 30 feet. Like I said, these rounds will demolish buildings in real life and can kill vehicle crews through armor just from the concussive blast. This will very likely either destroy or decrew the BTR and the BRDM. However, I am not specifically sure about what it would do to a BMP, although it likely will have the same effects. A possible launcher coming to the game is the RPO-A Smel. This is a one-time use, aka one and done. You buy the launcher, you use it, and that's it. It's trash from there. Basically consider it a more significant grenade. This is a general fornicate everything in that general area kind of round, and it will kill crews of BTRs. This is the same as the RPG-7's Thermobaric round, but again, it is one-time use. A lightly confirmed launcher coming to the game is the RPG-26, as it is the logo for launchers in the game. This is also one-time use, but it has a couple different variants. There is a high explosive anti-tank round, which will have no problem with the BTR and likely no problem with the BMP, and then it also has a possible thermobaric round that you can get with it. This will be the same as the RPG-7, but again, one-time use. So if this does end up coming to the game, what will likely happen is there will be just different variations of the weapon that you can buy from wherever you can buy it or find wherever you can find it. Another likely addition is another one-time use launcher with the M72 Law. Many modern types of AP variants come with the Law that will penetrate giggity between 300 and 450 millimeters of armor. There's also an HE round, an anti-structure, which is like a thermobaric round, and then also a reduced backblast and airburst round. Now, with the reduced backblast round, something to keep in mind here is that all of these are rocket launchers. They are shooting significant rockets out of those tubes. So backblast is an actual problem. Unless BSG does something to change this, all of these launchers will kill you if you shoot them with the back of the weapon towards a wall or if you are in a small room. And even if you aren't in a small room or up against a wall, if someone is directly behind you and gets hit with the backblast, they will likely get very injured, if not killed, by it. Now, going back to the Law, even though we haven't heard anything about it, given that this has seen extensive usage from NATO forces for the last 50 years, I'd be surprised if the USECs didn't have a couple of these, especially since they had access to APCs like the Striker, even with 105 to 120 millimeter cannons. The UN forces in the area might have access as well, but we aren't sure. Best way for me to describe this is I would be surprised if we didn't see the Law in game. And again, another likely one-time use launcher is the AT-4, meant to destroy or disable armored vehicles, but not tanks and fortifications, within a maximum effective range of 300 meters. This also has a heat round that would have no problem with the BTR or the BMP, but again, might also have problems with that cage that is around the BRDM. There's a dual purpose round for use against bunkers, buildings, enemy personnel in the open, and light armored vehicles. If there was one projectile that would come with the AT-4 or even the Law for that matter, I would expect it to be an HEDP, aka a dual purpose round. There's also a bunch of different variations of rounds that can come with it, but it's the same thing as the M72, just more recent. The AT-4 has seen extensive use by NATO forces over the last 30 plus years. So again, I'd be very surprised if USEC didn't have any of these, and same thing goes for the UN. Now, for possible launchers, we have the SMAW and or the Carl Gustaf. These are multi-use NATO launchers. Both have an effective range of 250 to 500 plus meters depending on the warhead, and both are laser rangefinder capable so that you know exactly how far away your target is from where you are. Again, neither of these launchers have been confirmed or even hinted at coming to the game, but given their usage over the decades, I'd be surprised if USEC and the UN didn't have a few of these lying around. Now, if BSG want a NATO version of a powerful reloadable shoulder-fired launcher, I would bet it's one of these. These would also make up the likely best or most effective shoulder-fired reloadable launcher in the game. If there could only be one of these in the game, I would guess that they would choose the MAAWS as it's more widely used around the world, but it's up to BSG ultimately, so we'll see. It's totally possible that we don't see either of these either, as they might think the RPG is good enough, and then lore-wise, it might be too difficult to get the SMAW or MAAWS with the evacuation of USEC forces from the region. Moving on to details, the SMAW has another dual purpose round. It has a high explosive anti-armor round, which is very specifically for tanks and heavier armored vehicles. And then it also has its own version of a thermobaric round. If I had to guess, we would see the dual purpose and the thermobaric. I don't think that we would see the heavy anti-armor round if they do end up adding the SMAW to the game. Now, the MAAWS, on the other hand, has a huge laundry list of different kinds of variations of rounds that you can put into it, all from Thermobaric to high explosive dual purpose to high explosive anti-armor, high explosive anti-tank, air burst high explosives, air burst smoke rounds, air burst flare rounds, even an area defense munition designed as a close range anti-personnel round. It fires 1,100 flechettes over a wide area. This is basically an anti-zombie horde munition. And if you want to see the equivalent of what this would look like, basically just take any shotgun in the game, about 250-ish flechette rounds, and then unload all 250 of those rounds into a wall and see what it looks like. That is one of these MAAWS rounds. And again, to be very clear, none of that is confirmed. However, if they do end up adding the MAAWS, you could expect to see a dual purpose round and very likely an HE round. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing those smoke and flare rounds as well. Now, of course, a lot of these weapons have significant destruction capabilities. So when it comes to destruction of buildings and the environment, other than those specific walls that we've seen in the Streets teas being blown down, and then whatever others that they add to the other locations, because they are coming to other locations, there will not be environmental destruction. The game is just not built for that. Now, Nikita has talked in the past about penetration of certain rockets through walls, just like bullets, as well as the concussive forces killing through objects as well. We see a variation of this now with the 40mm grenades, and we saw a quote-unquote bug during the first days of the GL40. We all remember when Landmark killed an entire squad with one round of the GL40, even though two of them were behind a thick brick pillar. That was quickly changed, but I have a tinfoil hat conspiracy that it was actually a state that was meant to be in the game, just probably not with the 40mm grenade. For those who don't know, the Mortar and the SPG-9 were originally planned to be coming as static weapons on the reserve location, but they removed them because they just weren't ready to implement the system used to reload those weapons. My tinfoil hat theory is that the damage radius of that grenade and the concussive effect that it had in order to kill through brick was meant for the Mortar or SPG, but accidentally came along with the 40mm grenades. So when these explosives make their way into the game, I would not be surprised at all if the high explosive and especially the thermobaric rounds kill through walls of certain thicknesses, even though they wouldn't leave a real hole in it, just like bullets do now. Now, speaking of grenade launchers, underbarrel and multi-round grenade launchers are coming. In fact, the underbarrel grenade launchers might even be coming with patch 1212, aka the next patch, which would quite literally just be the GL40, but on a gun. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if we end up seeing the GL40 on pretty much any Picatinny bottom rail for any of the longer NATO weapons, and especially on the SCAR, seeing as it is made for the SCAR, and the SCAR is also supposed to be coming with patch 1212. Now, there are supposed to be more standalone grenade launchers, including multiple shot grenade launchers. It's basically a revolver, but with 40mm grenades. So picture the GL40, but with 6 or more shots. When up against something like the RPG or the MAAWS or even La, it doesn't exactly have the same kind of effect, and it absolutely doesn't have the same kind of accuracy, but it does have its place in the game all the same, so that's why I wanted to add it here. Now, next we have manual detonation explosives. None of these are specifically confirmed, but their presence is confirmed as high explosives that you can set and then use will be in the game. That's directly from Nikita. So what we likely have here are TNT blocks, C4 charges, Claymore mines, and variations of the Claymore mine, all of which are either already in the game or we've seen work in progress shots of them. Then for non-manual detonation, actual mines, as in someone would need to step or trigger it, we have tripwires in general, because you're going to be able to apparently tie those to grenades and a bunch of different things like noisemakers, which we'll get to in a second. Then we have bouncing betties, which are actually linked to tripwires in the work in progress shot that we have. And we also have a few different anti-personnel mines. All explosives will require the proper materials and equipment to set them up correctly, such as an actual tripwire to use a tripwire, and then something to set them off like a clacker or maybe a cell phone if it is a manual detonated explosive. Each will take time to set up. This will not be Call of Duty or Battlefield where you click once and then the explosive just appears at your feet. You will want to bury or hide these devices for maximum effectiveness. What that looks like, we don't have specifics yet, but I would assume there will be some kind of animation involved with it where it implies implies that you are burying or hiding the explosives, just like there's an animation that implies you're stapling your guts back into your stomach with surgeries. Another key point to remember is that when you use these explosives, it will be very loud. In fact, there's one type of explosive that will literally just be loud. Nikita has shown us some small explosive devices equivalent to basically a firecracker that you can tie up with a tripwire and then leave in a doorway somewhere. Then if anyone moves through that area and triggers it, you'll know for whatever reason you need to know that someone has actually gone through that doorway or that location. I would think these will be very cheap to get and likely the most common type of quote-unquote explosives in the game. Again, unlike Call of Duty or Battlefield, your reward isn't some XP where you can just be across the map and know that you killed someone because you just see it pop up on the screen. If you kill anyone, you will then need to go loot them in order for it to be worth the cost of that explosive. And there is a lot that goes behind that. First thing to keep in mind is notice how it almost always takes 2 mines to kill you in the minefields around Tarkov right now. It's likely that the same would occur with these mines as well. So if you hear the mine go off, you might still have someone there to finish off, although they might be badly injured at least. However, if they have friends, then they will be expecting you for sure. Even if there was just one person and they were killed, the noise would still be obvious and you would still need to loot them to make it worth the cost of the explosive, so you'll need to be careful of third parties while you loot. There's always something cool that can come from this though, like for instance, once you're done, maybe think about leaving their backpack and helmet on and then booby trap that area for the next person who comes along. The high explosives like TNT and C4 will make nice traps for vehicles, so if you think it will come down a specific alleyway, you can wait for it there with some C4 and then hit it when it goes by. In this case, it will be very much like Battlefield or Squad or something. Just leave the explosives and wait. As I do doubt there will be much loot from the vehicle itself, but if there is, it's going to be from anyone riding on or in it. So it'll be up to you whether you want to go down there and pick it up or not. With the addition of destructible walls, those explosives might be required for some locations. And then we can't forget door breaching. I'm not sure if this feature will be added with the addition of explosives, but various types of breaking open locked doors will be coming to the game, including blowing them open with explosives. Other than some of the doors on the labs location specifically, and maybe a couple on reserve, I do not see many doors being capable of withstanding a C4 charge or block a TNT. You just really better hope there's something good on the other side of it, because it's going to cost you significantly with the explosives, and it's going to be much more obvious that you're there with that massive explosion as compared to just a turn of a key. That was everything that we have right now on the vehicles coming to Escape from Tarkov, along with what we can do to stop them. If you think I missed anything, please let me know in the comments or join the discussion on our Discord. Speaking of the Discord, we now have almost 8,000 people with a very active voice chat, a unique looking for group system, and a special trust system set up to know who you can trust right away in harsh games like Escape from Tarkov. If you are interested, the link is in the description. But that is all for today, guys. For the latest Tarkov news, check out these playlists here. If you like this video, then you know the drill. Please subscribe. I really appreciate the people who do. Otherwise, I hope you have a nice day. See you guys.